Hey, all, welcome to Challenge Accepted. I am Frank, and I'm joined by Thomas.
What's going on, everybody? We made it to the end of Secret Invasion.
Oh no, Secret Invasion episode 6, home. This is the finale. Yeah. So we have our finale. Did we answer a lot of questions, or did we just create more? That's the question.
Right. That's the ultimate question. And I actually have an answer because it gave me a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And it didn't answer some of the things that we've talked about this season of like, hey, I really need this to be answered for this season to be a success. Well, for me, they didn't answer it. So we'll get into it.
Let's start with our rundown. You're the one in charge of it this time. We're both going to do timers, folks.
Okay,
So,
yeah. You flip the timer. Yeah. I can't. I apparently can't look at time and read and talk. I'm not a good
multitasking. That's for the birds. No, we're good. We need assistance. That's what we need.
Yeah, exactly. My wife can attest to that. I'm terrible at
it. Starting in 5, 4, 3, 2, go.
Okay, so we start with Fury calling Varra. It's kind of like a cold conversation. And then we jump to Fury sets a trap. A car's coming to, I guess it's New Skrulls or Skrulls. The soldiers out front shoot it. And then boom, Fury kills them. I have a really funny saying here. He says, where'd it go? Basically something about Fury double tap in our full review. I'll have to mention it again. So Fury and Gravik meet there. He sees all the dead bodies of the Skrulls. And we see that Gravik is in the morphing machine that gives them Super Skrull powers. They get into this conversation. Meanwhile, like while Fury's going up there, he's like coughing and limping. He definitely seems like maybe the radiation's getting to him.
Yeah.
What else? Gravik gives an amazing speech to Fury, kind of talking about how he used him as a soldier. Let's see. From there, simultaneously, we are getting the Secret Service is getting shot down, and Rhodey is trying to move the president over to like a new room.
Sonya called him and warned him that Fury's coming for him. That's important.
Oh, yeah. Sonya called Rhodey as well. And let's see. They talk about there's some type of classified documents getting passed off. Sonya pulls a gun on Rhodey. Gaia is revealed to be fighting Gravik.
Yep.
Where we at?
You got I'd say 25.
Okay. Fury starts shooting. Fury shoots the Skrull. Gaia shuts down the mind scanner things, lets all the humans go. Rhodey is in there. The real Rhodey's in there. Everett Ross is there as well. Fury visits Varra, Priscilla. Sonya makes a deal with Gaia. Fury calls Ridden, and then Fury kisses
you're
Varra.
Done. Stop.
In front of the ship, and I guess they go to Saber. That was it. That was the last sentence I had.
There we go. Okay, so before we go any farther, I do want to say your neighbor's mowing, so just keep that in mind in case that kicks up. I think he stopped right now, but we don't know. We might be weed eating next. So
yeah. Sorry if a buzzing's going on. Hey, the lawn's got to look good in the neighborhood. What can I say?
It's a reminder for you to go out and mow your lawn, guys. Keep that in mind.
Right. I finally found this saying too. Okay. I go, Fury sets a trap, then he double taps.
There we go. Oh, that's a shirt, guys. There you go. That's a shirt.
Which is fine. Remember when we were talking about the Gaia where she gets shot, and I think it's at the end of episode 4, and then Gravik shoots her, and then he doesn't double tap. And
I know.
Like, what? Of course she's not dead. Yeah, well, Fury does it in this. Turns out that is Gaia. She learns a lesson from, I guess, getting shot herself, and then she double taps. Always got to double tap. That's a rule.
Let's lean on that side of the story first, right? Okay, so we have Fury walking around, coughing a lot. Immediately, I'm like, dude, Samuel Jackson's not this bad of an actor. This is clearly meant to be, I think even they're wanting the audience to know that he's faking it through all this coughing.
Right. It always felt a little off. You're like, is he trying to act like he's sick? Or it didn't feel like he was actually sick. But also, like, Fury, through this show, for me, never really got his step. Like, he finally got his eye patch and the gun and the trench coat back on last episode. And I guess this is him back in full Fury mode. But I don't know. Yeah, it felt a little cheesy almost. Well, maybe on purpose.
Well, I think it was on purpose. I think it was telling the fans that, like, I thought it was actually Fury, but I thought Fury was faking it for the sake of getting Gravik off his step. I thought that, but we find out later on that Fury is being a badass, just in a different place.
Right.
That being said, it's not enough Fury for, like, if you're thinking about what we're actually seeing, because we're actually seeing Gaia the whole time. That means at the end of Secret Invasion, Fury's just helping Sonya. It's not a lot for his character to be doing in this final moment, if you think about it, you know?
Totally. Yeah, I think the same thing. You know, it's like the biggest reveal and the big fight and the big culmination in this episode is pretty much Gaia versus Gravik. It's not really Fury. And like, I don't really, again, I liked a lot in this episode, and maybe we'll definitely go through all the things you liked, but it just felt like, what did Fury really learn from this? What did he really gain? A lot of this season was, Fury, you lost a step. You've never been the same since the snap. But like, I didn't really see him lose his step. It was a lot of telling and not showing. Like, I wanted to show him messing up. I wanted them to show us him not being in line, like maybe flashbacks from when he came back from the blip, or just him not catching something, and then because of that, Talos dies. But it didn't really show us he wasn't at the top of his game.
And a lot of the emotional payoffs were lost and washed away due to the fact that we had misidentifications. So, for example, when Fury is talking to Gravik, we have a really cool emotional part where he's basically explaining, like, I felt responsible for you. That's why I came back. So I had to come back from what I was doing. And really, we see that actually grounded Fury back to the old school Fury a little bit. But I came back because I know it was you, Gravik, and I knew that you were one of my young soldiers, and I felt responsible for you. Fake out, it's Gaia. It's not Fury feeling those emotions at all. So it's like, well, shit, that kind of erased a lot of things. Is Gaia making it up? Did Fury tell her that? It's hard to tell.
Yeah, exactly. There's another part in there where, Gravik asks Fury, who really is Gaia at this point, you said you were going to get us a home. Why'd you never do it? And then fake Fury says, oh, well, I knew within a couple of years we were going to find you a home. But that question is never truly answered from Fury on why they didn't find them a home. And I've had this question the whole time. Like, why, at the end of Captain Marvel, which we reviewed here, he says, me and Captain Marvel are going to find you a home. That's our goal with you guys. But from the real Fury, we never actually find out why he didn't find them one. It's so weird.
Talos does say in episode 2 that none of the planets were safe that they went to. There's infinite number of planets. They probably could still find one, but nevertheless, that's kind of the, like, this will have to be good enough answer. It's not enough. It's like a really big linchpin on the Skrull story that they couldn't find another planet. And even the promise of, like, the deal that fake Fury made was like, here's the super serum and just go to another planet, is the idea that, like, well, okay, then you could have manhandled another planet and got them a home. Like, there's still a promise of, like, the same things just resetting, but now we don't care as long as you leave my planet.
Right.
And then why is Gravik so stupid? Like, this entire, we're not going to harp on the negatives on this, by the way, guys. We are going to talk about positives, but we have to get this out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
Gravik being such a terrible villain. Like, he even dies too easy when he has Carol Danvers and Thanos' DNA in him, and he dies like a little bitch. And it's like, damn, that's too weak. But yeah, this entire thing of, like, oh, I got tricked by a Skrull. Like, you are Gravik. You should know better at this point than to do that.
Yeah, I didn't run into that issue. Like, I did like the end battle, and it turns out in a way to be Gaia, but I still wanted Fury ultimately to be face to face with Gravik and to have the real conversation with him.
Yeah.
To have the real conversation is like, hey, I'm sorry I used you. I'm sorry I never told you the truth, whatever that may be. Maybe it sets up some stuff down the line, but I didn't want Gravik to die. I hope he's not, because I thought,
he is super dead. This got a big hole missing inside him.
I know, but I mean, they have extremists. I mean, he had a chunk out of his face missing in one part too. Yeah. But like, he was such a good villain. I didn't want him to die in this show. I wanted him to, like, still be around, and the possibility of him rising back up and finding more Skrulls to be evil Skrulls, and eventually they get to fight the Fantastic Four would have been amazing. But it just, these emotional payoffs that you get from this finale are fake outs. And it's like, it doesn't, when you start thinking about it,
such a low-key problem.
Yeah. When you start thinking about it, though, you're like, that doesn't really make you feel satisfied, because you really want to know what Fury thought about this. This is Fury's show. He's the main character. What did he think about the Gravik of it all and what he did to them? I mean, we get a little bit of a payoff with Priscilla Varra, but then
that's what I want to talk about next for sure.
Right. And then we got, what did he think about um, Gaia of it all, like, and having that conversation. So yeah, we can jump into the Priscilla Varra
I really
finale of it
want to
all.
because it's one of those things where I think the more mature viewer, not to say that I am, but I kind of might be. I think that might have been one of the storylines that they were really excited about. It was him and his wife, and I think we got answered the question we've had multiple times throughout this season: is does he really love her for who she is, or is it just the Priscilla persona? And it is. He actually, they have the kiss at the end, and it was actually in her scroll form, and she wants to be called Varra now, and he's okay with that. He's fully on board, and that shows to me. It shows that Fury respects the Skrulls on an equal level, not a pity level like we thought before, like I was concerned about before. And no,
Totally.
he actually loves them. He actually respects them for who they are as a person. And then it's like, okay, now I see hope for Skrulls. Although they're in a much worse, it was so weird. They're in a much worse place now than they were in the beginning of this show. I
Mhm.
feel better for their future than I did in the beginning.
Interesting. I definitely feel like they're screwed. but
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it was sweet that he loved her for who she was.
Right.
I appreciate that they did answer that question. The kiss of it all was weird for me. Can't
Okay.
lie, like that. Yeah, I was like, I mean, I guess like I'm stoked for them. I'm
Yeah.
happy that they love each other for who they are. I really am happy, but I'm like, that looks interesting.
Yeah.
But good, good for Marvel for taking it that direction. I mean, we've seen Loki kiss himself, so whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, watching the Loki series, I felt very weird about like rooting for those two to hook up. I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this. But I'm
Yeah.
cheering for you, buddy.
Totally. So a little interesting. I love Varra Priscilla as a character. She was an amazing
Yeah.
actress. In addition to this, I hope that we get to see her in the Marvels coming up, and that
Mhm.
she has some kind of role within Saber. Um, with Gaia. Now, again, there was this great kind of fight scene, very CG heavy. How do you feel about
Yes.
Gaia and her finale and how she ends the show?
I think she's too powerful, just like I thought Gravik got too powerful. I mean, it's one thing to be replicating the super scrolls that we see from the comic books that, can mimic the Fantastic Four abilities. That's 4
Mhm.
abilities. This, they literally have all of them. And then when they flash all the DNA that's in that vial, you see Thanos is one on the list. Everybody that was at that battle's on the list. And it's just too much. Like you Thanos DNA is very special. You can't just be shoving
Right.
that into a scroll. She's too powerful to exist in the Marvel universe, and we talked about this with She-Hulk. You guys have escalated something in a Disney Plus series so beyond what the movies can handle or have handled in the past that it's unrealistic or believable that this is a connected universe anymore. You can't have She-Hulk
Mm,
being able to rewrite the ending of a character and changing how Daredevil's personality is in her series, and then have her go toe to toe with like a War Machine or Iron Man later on. Doesn't make
Right.
sense. Now you have Gaia, who literally has Carol Danvers, Thanos, every single villain and hero that was at that battle in one person. They shouldn't be allowed to exist on the same battlefield as, say, Spider-Man. It doesn't make
Right.
sense. It's too strong.
Yeah. I like the idea of them meeting up, Gravik and Gaia, and having that ultimate battle, and like you killed my parents, and she gets some justification. One, I still wanted her to be tied to Saber and be Abigail Brand,
We were
or
both
be
rooting for that.
revealed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted that. So maybe it's our fault, or the internet throwing that theory out there, and then me wanting that idea to happen.
Mhm.
But yeah, when I found out they both had every DNA and every power, I'm like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like it's a little too much. She's too powerful now. She's too strong. I am stoked for Emilia Clarke that she's gonna be an awesome character moving forward. I'm
Mhm.
always happy to see more of her. But yes, like when it comes to how powerful she is, it was my complaint with Captain Marvel going into Endgame. I'm like, are they gonna need any of the other Avengers, because she can literally fly through ships like a hot knife through butter? I don't know if I want her that freaking strong. Like,
Exactly.
yeah, it just makes other characters that you like feel unimportant or unnecessary.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was interesting. Yeah, I have so many questions about that and how it affects the world going forward. But you're right, too many powers for one person.
It's funny because Hawkeye has always been the punching bag in Avengers, right? He's always been the guy that's just like, yeah, I shoot my bow and arrow really good. And Black Widow has like immense training, but she's kind of close to that too. But now with these characters that we're starting to get in the MCU, outside of the multiverse of everything too, by the way, we're starting to get everybody at the Hawkeye level. Like, I mean, Spider-Man's dope, but really, how can he stand up to Carol Danvers' abilities? And that guy has them all.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like Carol Danvers with Cull Obsidian, with a Frostbeat, with Extremis healing. Yeah. It's like, wait, what? It's just, yeah, it's crazy. And then the Mantis of it all, like she can affect people.
That was so, okay, hold on. I got to say, that was such a cool move for her to bust that out. Yes. I like that she's Mantis because Mantis, I think, is completely underrated. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is so good. And then the way that she basically shuts down an omnipowerful superhero by just putting him to sleep. Like, I was like, okay, that was pretty slick. That was smart.
That was very smart use of combining the powers. I agree with you completely on that. Yeah, it's just interesting. I don't know where you take Gaia moving forward. You know, now that she has the power of the Marvels as well, she's got Captain Marvel. I don't know if she has Photon's powers too. Maybe not because I was
no, because she wasn't at Endgame.
Right.
I do want to throw in that invisibility thing we were talking about too before recording.
Right. Like I had a question about it. I was like, where the heck did she get invisibility?
They mentioned that it's a tech that they have, the invisible cloak and shield that they have.
No, did she mention it or did Fury mention it? Or
Fury mentioned it as her. Or her. Fury mentioned it, but it was really her. Yeah.
It was really, yeah. Okay. That's fine. That threw me off a little bit. I saw that she had ghost powers, so I was like, maybe I just watched it and it was really Ghost.
That's what I was kind of thinking too. Like they probably got it from Ghost or from what's his name, Lawrence Fishburne. I don't remember what his name is in the MCU, but he developed it. You know, so like that's probably where they got the tech. But that's the tech right there.
Got it. Yeah. Interesting. So many. I just feel like it's created more questions than it's answered for me, and
for sure,
I don't always like that at the end of a show, but stoked that Emilia Clarke will still be around and that we get to see her in the future, whatever aspect that will be.
She'll be working with Sonya, which I think is probably the highlight of the series for me. I think we have so many more questions about Sonya, and the only reason I'm cool with that is because that's her character. Her character is this mysterious spy master, and to me it reminds me of Archer. It reminds me of everything like that, and I'm cool with not knowing if she's a Skrull yet. Like I still think she might be a Skrull. I still think she probably is, and the fact that she's just like, hey, there's a super valuable asset, let's grab that. I'm looking forward to that kind of storytelling progressing into Brave New World and to Thunderbolts. I think that's going to be really cool to see over there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've talked about it numerous times. Olivia Colman is an amazing actress. I mean, Academy Award-winning actress. But it's just, I feel like still she was pretty underutilized in this show.
Fair. Totally fair.
She was a head agent or maybe even a director at MI6. And I'm like, why is she going on all these missions? Why is she coordinating everything? But from what we got in the show, she's still just a human who's in charge of this division. How did she find out about the Skrulls?
Yeah.
Like, when did she think or realize they were a threat? How is she so good at detecting them? All those things I still have questions about with her character. And I appreciate that she's still in the MCU and that now she's working with Gaia, but I'm still wondering a lot of those things, and was she utilized the best she could be? I don't think so. Like, I think she would have been, who knows what happens moving forward, but if she ended up being the Empress for the Skrulls, I think I would have liked that twist a little bit more.
I think it would have been a lot better storytelling wise, and I think it's still an option out there. The way she told Gaia, we're going to work together for the betterment of your people and the betterment of my people. It could go for the Skrulls as well. And then Gaia called that out. Like, hey, my dad already made this deal with Fury. And she said, like, let's not make the same mistakes again. So now I'm like, okay, so it's going to be this Fury relationship again, but they're going to be far more aggressive, I assume, in their actions. So I think what we've confirmed out of this, which we've only gotten in one other series, we're going to have that coming out this year, for sure, is it's going to be a season 2. I think we're going to get a season 2 out of this.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. All right. Well, that changes a lot.
Right. I think. Well, I
Yeah.
think that's what the Gaia and her conversation is going to be going forward. And let's talk about the other side of this too. Is due to the actions of Rhodey and anything like that, the president is now extremely xenophobic against these aliens. I don't know if xenophobic's the right term for it, but I think it's close.
Right.
And
Sounds good
is
to me.
well, and has created this kind of fever pitch that we see now hunt down all the Skrulls to where they're actually shooting non-Skrull humans, assuming that they're just in charge. I mean, my God, I know this is a mirror on our society and we don't like to talk about politics, but we see like this kind of extreme mentality that everybody's out to get me.
For
It's
sure.
here now, and that'll have to be addressed in Captain America, I think, for sure.
Yeah, totally. I agree with you. I think that is a pretty good segue to Brave New World. It's, we got invaded by aliens in 2012. Everybody in the world saw it with the Shatari, and then everybody in the world saw the Endgame battle, or at least like heard about it.
Mhm.
And now the Earth knows that there are aliens walking among us who can look like anybody. And yeah, it does create a lot of disorder in the world, which I think would have also worked really well with the title New World Order.
Yes.
But, Brave New World, for whatever reason, they've decided to go with that. Right on. Yeah, it is interesting. Do we see another evil Skrull faction pop back up? Is there scanners when people walk to airports or in restaurants now or wherever to see if you're a Skrull?
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting on what it does for the world of the MCU moving forward. And I did like that reflection on how society and sadly how our real world might treat this situation.
I think the key that we're going to see going forward, and I think we'll see it in Captain America 4, but I think we'll see it in season 2 of this, is that the world really becomes overreact. They overreact to this a little bit, and we become very much police statey a little bit, like not so to the extreme, but like think about Thunderbolt Ross, what he would want basically, because we know we're going to get to that. And then it's going to come down to the Avengers, and we've seen it so many times in the comic books, especially with Captain America. Talk about how like we have to trust freedom and the people, and not be hampering down so much. It brings us back to the Civil War of it all, specifically Civil War in the comic books, right? Where like we could be heroes and we could be good people without having to like overplease ourselves. So I think that's what we're going to come to, which is, I'm hoping Marvel can land that ship because it's going to be really hard to do.
Yeah, it is. And, the one thing I could say, which is good and cool, is this does leave the door open for there to be a superhero secret invasion where these Skrulls start imitating different heroes that we've already seen. And eventually there's a big battle that ensues. Like, it's funny it's called Secret Invasion because it feels like, a prologue to the real Secret Invasion in the comics.
Exactly. Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Like, it doesn't even feel like that event. It feels like the lead up to the event, which is really interesting.
Be that. What if we we have a couple unnamed things in Phase 6, and I think we're gonna get a season 2 of this. But if we don't get a season 2 of this, what if we get Secret Invasion leading into a Secret Wars thing? Like we could have that. I think that's a possibility.
That's so true. I just think that's so big and in a way kind of a miss. Like Secret Invasion could be its own team up movie. That could be its own Avengers movie.
Yeah.
And then what is it? The Kang Dynasty and what's the last one? Secret Wars. Secret Wars. Yeah. Like I don't want Skrulls to get mixed up in Secret Wars. It's too much.
Well, with the way the Secret Wars ends, it's very much Infinity Crisis kind of thing, where everybody who's involved in anything is going to get exposed. Like the only way that you can't have somebody after. Okay, let me clarify myself here. We have a problem right now where when something comes up, we always ask, well, why didn't you fight against Thanos? That always keeps coming up. That's the question that keeps coming up with everything, right?
Yep.
And so the Eternals is a really good example of that. After Secret Wars, if they go anywhere near what the comic books does, there's not going to be something that comes up afterwards that says like, well, why didn't you help during Secret Wars? Or because it's not possible. Secret Wars cleans everything up into one timeline. So you can't exist in hiding in that because everybody gets squished together. So you'll be exposed. That's why I think after Secret Wars, we have to have something like Annihilation coming in because it has to be something, an outside threat that wasn't part of that comes in. Or Galactus. Boy, that's a good time to bring in Galactus. I don't know. He's so big. It's tough.
Yeah. I mean, Fantastic Four, Galactus has to be there. So yeah. I think we eventually get to that point. definitely. And I hear what you're saying. Like, it needs to clean up. And again, this kind of goes into a conversation I was having with somebody at Comic-Con, which is like, what are we leading to? Like, we're told we're in the multiverse saga. I don't feel like there was any multiversal aspects of this show. Like, you know, like we didn't get variants of Fury. We got
we're not going to get that with Captain America 4 either. We're not going to get that. Like I'm cool with there being this spy sector of Marvel. Sometimes those are my favorite parts, but none of that's touching multiverse, I don't think.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, it should all feel like it's leading to something, at least for me. And that's what I loved about phases 1 through 3 is, you know, they were fantastic. You built these characters up. They were really interesting. They were flawed in their own ways, but they had to band together to kind of overcome this challenge. What did Fury learn from this? How is this leading to the multiverse saga? How does this even tie into the multiverse saga? At the end of this show, I'm still wondering these things, and that's not what I want. Like, exactly. I want us to be leading in a direction to Secret Wars, to Kang Dynasty. There's not any, as far as I know, and as far as I can tell right off the bat from just watching this, I don't see how this ties into any of that. And this was just a side adventure for Fury. Yeah, it was just a side adventure for Fury. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, boom, I'm going back up to Saber. Did this story, and you know, I made a list of questions that we were going through. We can either jump into them now or we can save it for the end, but I just don't know what and how this leads into a culminating event. And was this necessary for the Secret Wars of it all? I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think this was necessary, but I think Secret Invasion is such a good story that it was necessary to do at some point. And I think Marvel's kind of at the point where they were like, look, we've got to do Secret Invasion at some point, and it can't be after Secret Wars. You know, like I was saying before, like, I don't think you can handle Secret Invasion after Secret Wars.
I see what you're saying.
Unless you give it enough time for them to basically rebuild after Secret Wars.
Yeah, for sure. But then it's like, I mean, maybe they had so much faith in Jonathan Majors, and now that's just a very sticky situation.
Yeah.
But man, imagine they didn't do Kang Dynasty. They did Secret Invasion instead.
That, I think, should be. I actually think that should exactly be what happens. Mm-hmm. I think throw in whatever you can, save of Kang, and throw it into Secret Wars. Don't touch Secret Invasion. Don't do Kang Dynasty at all. I think we go right into Secret Invasion, and we do comic book Secret Invasion, where you actually see our heroes, and we'd have Iron Man pop up and stuff like that, but they're all Skrulls. Like, that's how you save this. That's how you save this, and that's how you save Marvel's sloppy mess of combining the spy thriller side of things with the cosmic massive side of things. I think that's how you save it right there.
Ooh, yeah. I like that. I think that would be a great tie-in. And it's a different way, like, rather than having variants, which the issue with variants, and I love the Secret Wars of it all. I have briefly and tried to dive into the new one. I read the whole like 1984 version of it. I love the classic version of it. That book is so great. I mean, that run is so great. But it's a way to have actors come back, because Skrulls can look like Tony Stark. Skrulls can look like Steve Rogers. You can bring them back, and that can tug on the heroes that we have left or are currently rooting for. You can tug on their heartstrings. Like, oh my God, there's Tony again. There's Steve. You know, all that. There's I don't. You know what I mean? Like, there's just so many people they could bring back, and you don't need to do the variants. And when you bring back variants, if somebody dies, it's like, whatever. There's another version down the line or in some other universe we can bring in. It makes the death less significant. And I think the Secret Invasion of it all would still make the death significant, but you can still bring back some of those people and characters that we have fallen in love with from phases 1 through 3.
Yeah, it gives you the option to just like, hey, I just want to see Iron Man's suit again. And you know, sometimes you just got to be like, I want to smash these action figures together. That gives Secret Invasion's perfect for that, because we don't lose Iron Man. We don't lose the sacrifice he gave you, but we still get to see him be cool for a second.
Yeah, you talked about Iron Man armor right there, though.
Yeah,
let's talk about Rhodey and them discovering Rhodey, because I think that was pretty crazy. I think the internet probably knows this. Maybe everybody who's kind of been following along knows this or is checking social media. But we see Rhodey in the gown that we see him in at the end of Civil War. Yeah. How do you feel about that? What are your thoughts on that?
I really like the fact that they really made sure to hammer it in with like the 2 sentences you've been here for a long time. You know,
Yeah.
they made sure to say that a couple times. So I think we're going to learn that Rhodey has been a Skrull through Secret Invasion, or sorry, through Endgame and Infinity War. That's cool. I like it. And it kind of brings me back to the moment when I can't remember her name, but the one that's playing Rhodey comes out of the shower and she looks almost distraught just being in his skin anymore, because she's probably been doing it for 6, 7, 8 years, something like that. She's been doing it for a very long time. So she's just exhausted being Rhodey, you know?
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. It is interesting because all those emotional points and everything that Rhodey has said, you know, through Infinity War, through Endgame, you look back on it, and you're like, wow, she was a Skrull the whole time. Like it's wild. It is crazy. And then you look back at that line from Endgame when he's like, why don't we just go back in time and just, you know, wrap the wire around him, and then like pulls the string when he's like, we should kill Thanos as a baby. And they're like, whoa, you know, like, whoa, what are we talking about killing Thanos as a baby? But you're like, no, that was a Skrull saying that.
I never thought about that. Good catch.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're like, oh, that was kind of out of character for Rhodey, but it's not a bad thought. But you're like, no, the Skrull was thinking that way, which is wild. I love it. And at the same time, it creates so many more questions for me than it does answers. Which
I'm fine with him answering at some point. Like we were talking about too, is we need to record for stuff. We need to record before we earlier, because we keep doing this. We keep talking about everything. And then we're like, oh, let's make sure to bring this up. But Armor Wars now to me sounds way cooler, because now we're going to find out Rhodey's going to be learning about Tony's death. He's going to be learning this and that. He's going to be learning what the world looks like, because he's been gone before the blip. Even he's been gone. And so he's got a lot more catching up to do, just like it was during the blip and stuff. And I'm really hoping they bring Happy in, because I think Happy is a really good connection to the Tony Stark side of things, and him losing a good friend of his. So I hope they do that. I mean, there's a small part of me that was hoping that they would bring back the old Rhodey actor for that, but I just like, it would have been too much. It would have been so cool though. Yeah.
They would have been very meta, like to have, you know, Terrence Howard in some point, but it's just interesting. I think I'll start rambling through some of these questions. Some of them I've already asked. Let's do it, because I think we've brought it up and you had some good answers for these things. But this is some of the questions I had right after watching this latest episode. The first one was, why couldn't they find them another world? And Gaia gives an answer. Guy who's pretending to be Fury gives that answer to Gravik. Like, I knew within a couple of years I couldn't find you a home. But we never actually hear from Fury why you couldn't find them another home. And that was an answer. That was a question I needed answered through the season. And I still don't know. It drives me insane. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think the way that fake Fury was saying, like, we could have done it with Force, I think is an actual real option for them. I think more importantly is at the end when we learn that the Kree are coming to the table to negotiate. So that's going to really open up for the Marvels. So I think why they couldn't find a home, I believe it's what Talos said, that every place was too violent. And I think a reason for that is because the Kree could find them. So they'll be able to find them a new home if there's a treaty with the Kree. And I think in Marvels, we're going to have, which sounds probably about right, we're going to have a sector of the Kree that are like, no, the war is all we know, so let's keep fighting this war. We're going to learn that the intelligence, can't remember what it's called.
Oh, yeah, Supreme
Intelligence is probably dead, and so now there's like this new batch of leaders in the Kree universe that are like, oh, we're open to no more war, but there's gonna be some old school fighters that are like, no, I follow the way Ronan did, and we're not gonna stop fighting.
Yeah, you're right. I think the accusers are their own sect of the Kree, and they're probably the originalist in the way they think. We have to stick to traditional Kree,
the Mandalorian kind of guys.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like, so I think we're going to be fighting. I don't think Marvel is going to be about stopping the Kree, because we know the Kree are involved. But I don't think it's going to be stopping the Kree. I think it's going to be stopping that sect. And then at that point, we could finally make a new home for the Skrulls that want to leave Earth. And then I think at that point, once they do leave Earth, there's not a million of them on our planet. It might be easier to have some of them stay back.
Totally. I like that. Yeah, that's a really good thought. And I agree with a lot of that. We also got, this was another question. Who does Fury report to when leading Saber? Yeah. Because I was like, okay, the president doesn't seem to really know Fury. He ends up listening to him in a way, but Fury shoots Rhodey. Turns out he's a Skrull. Who's in charge of Saber? Is this a joint effort for all the countries? How, like, it doesn't seem like the president has. No, in episode 1 or 2, he does mention Fury, but like it doesn't even feel like Fury reports to him. So like who's in charge of this organization is like the weirdest thing for me.
I'm getting some like MIB vibes to where it's like we own some patents on important things that funds everything.
Oh yeah, it's like off the books.
Yeah, it's off the books. So I wonder if there's going to be. I would really like a flashback. I always like when they bring in Howard Stark. So let's get a flashback where Howard Stark and the old Shield people are talking, and they're like, "We need to separate ourselves from the U.S. government because maybe." Oh God, I really want more stuff in the past because I know we're going to get some Fantastic Four in the past. They've already been talking about that. Mm-hmm. But how cool would it be if there was something in the past that shows the U.S. government is not infallible? Maybe Hydra gets in there somehow. So they're like, you know what?
They did with Shield.
Right. But at the time, maybe they get into the U.S. government, so Shield feels like they have to back themselves away a little bit. So maybe Shield becomes a little separated, and we find out that they're governed a little differently than the rest of the agents that belong to the U.S. Because they're like, we have to be more international. Maybe? I don't know.
Yeah.
Kind of like how Interpol works a little bit, you know?
Right on. I dig that. I dig that thought. It just, it really felt like Fury just does his own thing.
Yeah.
You know, like, all right, peace out, everybody. I'm going back up to my spaceship.
Yeah.
So, it just an interesting thought. Let's see. So Sonya was a human the whole time. We've already talked about that. We mentioned before in some previous episodes, we really wanted her to be the Empress or to be a Skrull or be like tied to the High Council somehow. I still want that. And you have already mentioned like, yes, there's a possibility she still can. So I feel like we've kind of answered that. Let's see. Why did Fury have the harvest? Like, was it purely to just have the DNA of the heroes? Was it to have a backup plan so that he could make his own heroes like the Avengers? Was it altruistic? He wanted their DNA so he could figure out a way to like help them if anybody found weaknesses for them. I don't know. Like that was still never really answered.
It wasn't answered. My thought process on that is like, if you're that high level into spycraft, you would clear all your bases. And so it's just like how Batman always keeps a Kryptonian bullet on him, that kind of thing. So he probably has a kill switch for everyone, including Carol Danvers, just to be safe. There's also the level of like, I better collect it because if I don't, somebody will. So he probably has that worry about that too, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, interesting. Yeah,
think about how like adversarial countries would be wanting to roll in on that. So I didn't think about that before, but like they talk a lot about how Russia and US are somewhat adversaries in this universe. Imagine how much Russia's like, hey, we want to go to where Endgame was fought too. Like, no, you can't. It's our area or something like that. So. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even think about it. I mean, talk about an Oppenheimer tie-in. You know, like US has like a super weapon that nobody else in the world has because you have the DNA of the world's greatest heroes. Yeah, that's true. I never thought about it like that. The next thing is, did Maria have to die?
No, not at all. It's so stupid.
I know. I'm just like, what? Now, after seeing the finale, it does feel like it really didn't make or break the story in any way. Like it sets off this emotional tie-in where it's like, you don't know who you can trust, who's a Skrull or not, but at the end of the day, I don't feel like she needed to die to make a big impact on this story.
Would you be more satisfied if it came out that she was a Skrull and was still alive, like on the sword base?
I don't know. I don't know because it would have made the beginning a little weird with Talos, who we obviously know is a Skrull, and then Maria also being a Skrull would have been a little like, it wouldn't have made that death as impactful in the first episode, but I don't really know what it impacted other than like,
that's true.
We meet Maria's mom. Like it didn't like fire Fury up anymore. He was already like, I got to get my groove back. And I already got to save the world. So I don't know. It just seems like kind of a little bit of a waste. Yeah. And kind of sad about that. Same. I really like Maria Hill. Let's see. If the president is still alive, how do we get Thunderbolt Ross as president in the Thunderbolts movie?
I don't know how we get Thunderbolt Ross, but I know how we get Thunderbolt Ross's mentality into the social conscious. because now everybody's as amped up as Thunderbolt Ross always is. The way he treats, not just Hulk, but really anybody that's not purely human and in his realm, he treats like how everybody wants to treat the Skrulls right now, just hunt them down and kill them at all costs. So the next presidential run, if he's running for president, he has an easy election ahead of him.
That's true. Yeah, and if President Ritson, who we see at the end, who does we got Skrulls among us, we got to take them down.
Mhm.
If he doesn't do a good job of eliminating all the Skrulls, whatever that would look like, which is a ridiculous sentiment too, because it seems impossible. One, he doesn't know how many Skrulls there are in the world.
Yeah.
Two, right now he doesn't necessarily have technology to find them, as far as I know. It just seems like a ridiculous sentiment, but it also shows, to your point, things are worse for them now than in the beginning, which is an interesting way to end the situations with the Skrulls on Earth. And, Fury has kind of alluded to it in the show.
And the fear and anger, I think, really importantly, is killing non-Skrulls too. We saw that the Prime Minister of the UK was gunned down in the front of her home, and she's
brutal.
a human, and so it's like, oh shit! So right now, Earth is chaos, and that's why. While I think most of the show was setting up the Marvels, it's definitely setting up Captain America now too, because Captain America. Marvel's is going to be off planet. Captain America is going to be embracing this world in full fear and chaos. And we've seen that in our own history plenty of times. After a terrorist attack or something like that, we've been that way. That's what we're inheriting in the next big Marvel movie.
Such a good point. And I think the other thing that it could be setting up is how this world accepts the X-Men, right?
Yes,
we've seen it in comics. I mean, that's always the biggest play. It's like we protect people who hate us. Who fear us, who don't want us to be here, but we still want a world in which we can coexist with humans. And I think just based on what we've seen with how the world is treating Skrulls, man, it is not going to be a nice world for X-Men either, or mutants.
Well, I mean, what a perfect world for Xavier to need to create a school for safety and for Magneto to want to fight back. Like you just created the exact situation for those two to exist.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm not excited about it because I feel bad. I mean, so excited. X-Men is my favorite franchise.
Oh, dude. Yes.
Yeah. You could there's so many videos I put out about how X-Men got me in the comics and it's my favorite thing and blah, blah, blah. But yes, it is perfectly setting up that world. And I am happy about it and sad at the same time because I'm going to see a lot of characters' hearts being broken by people fearing them for no reason, but thus is the life of an X-Men or a mutant.
Yeah.
Rhodey has been a Skrull this whole time since the Snap Endgame at Tony's funeral. Just a thought. Maybe it was just like a nighttime thought that is so interesting. And the Rhodey that wakes up at the end of this episode, I wanted to see more of his realization of what have I woken up to? How long have I been out? Because it's been maybe over 5 years now that he's been put under.
More than 5 years. The Snap itself is 5. So
seeing that realization, I'm sure we're going to get it in Armor Wars if that's still going to happen. But man, I want to see him realizing what he's missed and what he's woken up to, because that's a crazy thought. Rhodey was one of the people that didn't get snapped in Infinity War. So it was just interesting.
Maybe he might have been snapped. We don't know. Everybody that was in a vat, which by the way, we see that I'll speak about that in a second. Everybody that was in a vat or under lockdown, they might have snapped out and snapped back into that exact same spot. We don't know.
Yeah, but I hear what you're saying, but Rhodey was in that gown that seemed to signify that was at the end of Civil War, pre-Infinity War. Would he have snapped back into the gown?
Oh yeah, they all did.
Guess. Yeah, that's true.
They all snapped exactly where they were. Think about how Ant-Man came back. He came back exactly where he left off.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think I'm leaning more towards at the end of Infinity War when he goes in and he gets all the medical stuff checked out and all that. I think he was taken at that point and then replaced with a Skrull.
I want to make sure to shout out real quick too. At the end, we see Gaia is being led by Sonya into a room that has what looks like an endless amount of people that are under their they're being locked down and replicated somewhere else in the world. And Gaia is surprised because she didn't realize that there were so many Skrulls out there. So that endless room is a room full of Skrulls that have taken over.
Oh, okay. I didn't really even piece that together. And that was a room that we saw in the trailer.
Yeah, and Sonya showed her that room.
Sonya's shoulder that were. Oh, interesting. So you're right. I guess it could leave the door open for Sonya to be a Skrull. And like, look at all these people we've taken. Now she gets Gaia under her control. Yeah. She's got a super Skrull who's on her side. Plus she's like still kind of manipulating things from behind the scenes.
And she knew more than Fury did about the Skrulls, because Fury didn't know about the million Skrulls. Talos did. And Talos told him. Sonya knows about them and is already using way more than Fury had.
Right.
So Sonya in every way is the elevated version of Nick Fury.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, interesting. Definitely want to see what happens with her character, because there's so many questions with her as well.
She's so the queen, dude. There's no fear in my mind.
right. No post-credit scene. What's up with that?
None of them had a post-credit scene, and I watched all of them, and it kept trying to get me to watch Captain Marvel, and I just did, so I'm good.
Right, exactly. I'm so bummed about that. Really wanted at least a post-credit scene for the last episode.
Actually, that part that we just talked about would have really made a great post-credit scene. The fact that we see Gaia go down and see like this whole room. Just throw it at the post-credit scene, and then we would have been talking about it like crazy.
Yeah, good point. Especially if she is the Empress or whatever going forward. She could even be the Emperor for all we know.
Yeah, that's true. That's a very good point, yeah.
Yep. So weird. Not a fan of that. Wanted to post-credit scene. And let's see. What did this show actually set up for the future? I think we've touched on it several times.
We have, yeah.
There's a perfect setup for the Marvels and Brave New World. I think there's a lot of tie-ins there. Did this matter for Fury? I think let me just ask you that. Did it matter for Fury for you?
I think the point was to bring Fury back to what he was pre-snap. But before this show, we didn't know that he broke as much as he did. So it doesn't really help for us to see him come back to it, because we didn't know how bad he was. True. They could have just ignored that.
Yeah, they told us he was broken. We never got to see it.
Yeah, so he didn't need to be this bad. But I don't know. What do you think? Do you think Fury was really changed by this dramatically?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
And I think that was, I love a lot of this show. Even through episode 5, like I thought this show was so great. It was so interesting, whatever. But episode 6, you used this word when we were kind of setting up for this, but you're like, man, something about these shows just feels a little hollow.
Yeah.
And this ending for me feels like that. It just felt like, what was the point of going on this short story? Yeah. It doesn't really feel like to me that it was super necessary. And again, it could all change when we watch the Marvels. But in the Marvels trailer, we go back to like happy joking Fury a little bit. It just felt like a weird side tangent that didn't really change too much in the Marvel world if we're talking about the ultimate goal of getting to Kang Dynasty and then Secret Wars. I don't know what it did.
Yeah, if you're looking at how Marvel movies work, it's a lot like a tree, right? You have the tree growing. It needs to be able to set up the future and grow tall, and then it needs roots that dig down into the characters you've already developed. And I feel like this show, while setting up a lot of tree, we see that we have definitely the thriller side of Marvel set up. The roots didn't go down well enough. Like they went to Captain Marvel and that was it. We didn't get to see much of like the Nick Fury that set up an Avengers team was not here at all. The Avengers were brought up a couple times, but just so in passing. And it felt like the 12 years of Marvel you had before you were not tapped into by this series in a way that we know Secret Invasion, especially comic wise, definitely is. So I'm hoping that, again, going back to this tree, that it's not so shallow rooted that it's just going to all make everything feel useless in the future. I don't know. Like when we see Captain Fury in the Marvels, he definitely doesn't feel like he was affected by this, and that's not good.
Yeah, based on what I've seen in the trailers, it feels like two different characters. Are we talking Gaia again, or wait, what's going on?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the thing where it's like, okay, this was not even a departure from his character. It still, felt like he could be that same character. But then when you bring it back into what we've seen again in Captain Marvel or in the Marvels, it doesn't feel like it fits. And you did such a good job of just saying these roots were so shallow.
Yeah.
I didn't learn, Fury had a wife, and it turns out he loves her. Cool. But does that really change anything for Fury for me moving forward? Not really.
Not really.
Yeah. So I don't know. Just felt like, I guess, cool adventure. I love the spy stuff, but it just felt like, just hollow. There wasn't this oomph, this impact on like, wow, Fury really did lose it all during the snap, and then he has to fight to gain it all back. They tried to show us that, they tried to tell us that, but again, I didn't feel that.
Yeah, I think the only real true impact on this show, from the show, first off, we have Sonya. I think Sonya is going to be a very valuable character going forward. And Gaia is too big to be ignored. She'll be used in the future. But I think the main thing is the state of the planet is now one of fear and overreaction. And I think that's going to be important going forward. Other than that, the show was not needed.
Yeah. Other than that, it wasn't a lot of emotional grounding for Fury.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah. So for sure. Yep. I love, again, so much of this show, but the ending for me just didn't quite stick the landing, and wanted to feel more out of it. I really wanted to celebrate this show and for it to be kind of a sleeper, almost like how Andor was. But, for some of these Marvel shows, again, I love a lot of it. And either the ending I really like She-Hulk was the ending was like probably the end was probably the only episode I really dug, or the first and the end.
Really? Yeah. Oh, for me, I liked everything but the ending. I think the ending was too much.
No, I did like it because it felt like some of the comic book runs. And then for this show, I liked everything Secret Invasion. I liked everything 1 through 5, but the ending just didn't hit for me the way I wanted it to.
I would agree with that one for sure.
And so Loki was pretty great all the way through. That ending was fantastic.
Oh yeah.
WandaVision, the ending was a little bit of a letdown, but it's still really good. So all these things, it's like there's this weird thing for me, just me personally, where the finale of the Disney Plus Marvel shows either is one of the better episodes or one of the worst episodes. And in this case, for me, it was one of the worst ones.
Yeah, Miss Marvel, I think the last episode was its most impactful episode, and is the one I keep telling people you got to at least watch that last one. Yeah. And for Hawkeye, I think it was almost a different show. The finale was almost a whole different show than the rest of the series.
Totally.
And both were good, but just in different ways. And so I like the Hawkeye show, but definitely not. The stakes are so low in that show that it's kind of just fun to watch on its own. Like it's not going to impact the rest of the world like this one just did.
Yeah. It's funny. Like Hawkeye is a different show for me in a way because it's a legacy character that gets his own time to dive into it. Yeah. And it hit harder because we've seen everything that Hawkeye's had to go for. In a weird way, I almost can put that in a different category. Maybe like Loki too, in a way. WandaVision, but then WandaVision just kind of goes off in this like very cheesy kind of battle, but I guess it sets up Coven of Chaos, so we'll see how that ties in. And then for me, Multiverse of Madness kind of disregarded what happened in WandaVision, but we're getting all over the place. The finales either really work or they really, for me, don't. And this one, it just didn't work as well as I wanted it to.
You know what one slaps at every single episode, including its finale, is the what if.
You think?
What if to me
that's a take.
What if was fantastic in every way, in my opinion.
Wow. We differ greatly on that. But what if I did not like what if at all. The only episode I liked was the Doctor Strange one where he keeps trying to change. Yeah. But other than that, like Party Thor, did not like that. Actually, the episode where, sorry, this is spoilers for What If now, but where Hank Pym comes back or he's like killing everybody. That one was good too. There was certain the T'Challa Star-Lord episode was good, but like a lot of
that's
it.
Half again, the series so far. You just did half those.
I know, but like that, yes, half of it did work, but it also felt hollow. Like it felt so, and I know What If is not supposed to connect. No, but them culminating in the end just kind of, to me, was kind of stupid. Like I would have liked it if it was more of like a Twilight Zone, where every episode is its own thing. There's no real connective tissue, and it's just like get really wild and wacky with the episodes. But I honestly, again, I think that's the finale of it all. I didn't like how they connected. I wish, for them to, in one universe, I think they don't pick up Tony Stark. Tony Stark is a genius in that universe, regardless. For them to be like, no, we don't need you, was kind of weird for me.
In that universe, Killmonger saves him. So
right, but and then like I didn't like that choice.
It was. It's. I think it's a really good show, and I hope other people give it a shot because I would like for us. We have to revisit that one when that comes out because I know they're doing What If 2 soon.
Yeah,
So
I just
we'll
hope
have
they
to
get
revisit
really
it.
wacky and weird, and like don't try to really go for it. Like really go for it. I don't feel like they did. I feel like they still kind of played it safe in like the What If show that we got, and yeah. Anyways, there's a great Secret Invasion of All, good show. A lot I liked about it. Introduced a lot of awesome new characters, a lot of interesting concepts. Yeah, just for me, missed the mark at the end. I really want to hear what everybody else out there thought about it.
Definitely.
If you think you disagree with me, if you really like the ending, please tell us that you liked it, first of all, and why you liked it. Very curious. And how you think this is going to affect the MCU moving forward would be really, really interesting.
Yeah, that's the part that I'm so excited to hear more about. So please let us know, guys. And yeah, so we're on Threads, we're on Twitter, we're on all the fun places. Come hang out with us. We'll see you guys next week. Next movie, by the way, is gonna be Tombstone. So watch Tombstone with us.
Oh,
right.
yeah.
On the next one. Bye, guys.